Achieving critical focus is the process of getting your subject in focus. This is critical because it's something you can't fix later. If a shot is too dark or a little too light, there are some remedies for that in post-production. But if a shot is out of focus, there's not much you can do to fix it. These shots from the night scene didn't turn out very sharp. Because we were shooting at night with a small crew, I had to open up the aperture all the way on prime lenses in order to get a good exposure. But that made my depth of field really shallow. As we'll look at in the next chapter, this means that only a small sliver of the frame is in focus. As our talent moved around, she went in and out of focus. Now, I was operating the camera by myself and didn't have a camera assistant to adjust the focus, so I blew it. As we've discussed, it's the job of the first assistant camera person to adjust the focus, or in film lingo, to pull focus. Pulling focus is the act of dynamically adjusting the focus to accommodate focus changes in the scene. This can include rack focus shots, where focus shifts from one subject to another. Now we'll look more at rack focus shots in the next chapter, but rack focus shots aren't the only times you call upon your camera assistant to help with focus. If the subject moves around the scene, the focus will need to be adjusted. Or if the camera moves around, the focus will need to be adjusted. The process of focusing is fairly standard from my experience. When everyone is ready to shoot, the person slating will put the slate in the shot. You'll then need to roll camera and do that whole process. Once the slate is clapped and the person slating leaves the frame, you'll need to reframe the shot and refocus on the subject. When you're done with that, you'll need to indicate to the director that you're reframed and refocused. Usually the camera operator will just say set to the director when they're ready to call action. To help with focusing, you'll probably want a few extra tools. Now, first and foremost, you'll need a good monitor. You know, when I first got my DSLR camera years ago, I tried focusing on the fly just using the little LCD screen on the back of my Canon 7D. That turned out to be not a great idea. What seemed in focus on that little tiny screen often turned out to be very out of focus in the edit. I also find it interesting that when we did the night reshoot and got these out of focus shots, I didn't bother setting up Video Village since we had such a small crew. Even though this little monitor is great, it's tiny and tough to use for evaluating focus. Another thing that helps is a follow focus. As we discussed earlier in this chapter, a follow focus can allow camera assistants to make focus marks and make precise focus adjustments. In addition, it helps to use lenses that were developed for cinema instead of photography. And look, I get it, cine lenses cost a small fortune. All the lenses that I own personally are photo lenses, but that's not ideal. And really, one of the biggest differences between photo lenses and cine lenses is the way that they handle focus. You see, still photographers, they just need to capture a single moment in time, so they're usually all about autofocus. But cinematographers need to be able to maintain and adjust focus precisely. So cine lenses often have very tiny increments of focus so you can adjust them more carefully. If you're shooting little projects on your own, then photo lenses might be just fine. But if you've advanced in the big leagues and an out-of-focus shot would cost a production thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, then you might consider just renting some cine lenses. In the upcoming training course on color, we'll look at some tricks to improve out-of-focus shots. And, maybe one day focusing won't be such a big deal and we'll be able to focus in post-production. But unfortunately, that day is not today. So be extremely aware of what you have in focus.